All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Hatoraid Live, the Hatoraid Hour podcast. I'm your host, Jordan, aka Hatoraid Cowboy, and we got some special guests for you today. We're going to be talking with madVR. They just released some new products, some exciting new stuff is happening in the home theater realm. But before we get started, as always, let's have fun, let's be kind to one another, and let's keep it G-rated. All right, well, as I said, I did not come alone. We've got the team from madVR. We've got Joey and Richard. What's going on, guys?
Hey
Good stuff,
Jordan, how
man.
are you?
Doing pretty good. Thank you guys for coming on the channel first time.
Of course, happy to be here.
Yeah.
Exciting
All right.
times.
Yeah, and if anybody, you guys are in the chat, let us know where you guys are watching from. If you guys have any questions, you go ahead and drop them in the chat. I'll try to star them. If it's anything pertinent, we can address it, right then. But we'll try to address the comments at the end. But yeah, you guys made a big announcement a couple of weeks ago. What is it? A little bit over? Has it been 2 weeks yet?
A week and a day.
A week and a day. All right. So
Feels like a year.
I'm sure you guys have been working on it for well over a year.
Oh,
So yeah,
yeah.
why don't you guys? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's just it's been a long time in the making for sure.
Yeah. I know you guys been talking to you guys behind the scenes. You guys have been really busy, so appreciate all the work that you've been doing. Why don't you guys give us a little bit of an introduction about yourself? What you do in the company, and then give us a brief introduction on how madVR actually got started. I guess Joey, you wanna go first?
Yeah, I can. So, hey, everybody, thanks for joining. Jordan, big fan of your channel. I've subscribed for a long time, and I watch all the time. So, thank you for having us on. So, I'm Joey Peacock. I'm with madVR Labs. I'm the senior sales manager. I oversee global sales for the company, and I am a hardcore cinephile and movie fanatic, and that's kind of what got me in the business. I was a dealer myself for many years, and then moved over here to the manufacturer side. So that's me.
All right, we got Richard.
Yeah, so I'm Richard Litofsky. I'm the co-founder and CEO of the company. I founded the company with my partner Matthias. I guess it was about 7 years ago. And diehard enthusiast, DIY guy. Back in the day when I was a bit younger. And I built my midlife crisis theater, probably around 2014 or so, somewhere in that window. And it was like a 3-year, project. And everything was great when we were done. The seating was amazing, the lighting was amazing, the room was amazing, the audio and the speakers. Everything sounded great, but the video was disappointing, and the HDR tone mapping was terrible. And I was like, no, I didn't go through all this for this to be the experience in the room. And so I knew there was a better way, and I set out to build the video processor that that I wanted for myself, and figured that some other people along the way might also be interested in playing with it as well. So 7 years later, here we are.
Nice. And you actually, so tell me a little bit about the madVR software, because before there was any of the actual machines, you guys had a software that a lot of people were using. You could download the software and basically build your own madVR machine. So I'm assuming that got started way back then.
Yeah. I mean, that's where we have our roots, right? When I say that we're enthusiasts, I mean it, my partners as well, right? I mean, we're all passionate, and we do this because we love it. And so I think that was probably about 15 maybe years ago, 17 years ago, that my partner came out with madVR software. At the time, it was essentially an algorithm that allowed you to do upscaling, and I think it was really focused like on anime back at the time, and just progressively kept building and building, right? And so I was aware of this, and that's when I had reached out to him and said, hey, this would be great to team up, because I'm a serial entrepreneur. And I said, hey, why don't we team up, and you keep doing what you're doing, and we'll make some magic together. And that's kind of where it got started. So that's where our roots are. I mean, we still have hundreds of thousands of users that use the madVR ACPC software. It's still supported. We're very grateful for the community for all of their help and feedback that they provide. And it's really been a great relationship that we have and continue to foster with the community.
Awesome. And Joy, how did you start working with the company?
I After the company launched, I found out about it immediately because I'm a huge enthusiast, just like you and all your audiences, and I stay plugged into everything. And as soon as I saw it, I fell in love with it, and I'm like, holy mackerel! This is a company that I could get behind and support and be super proud to be part of. And I started bugging Rick about it every time because at the time the company was doing a lot of live streams, trying to get the webinars to get the word out, to educate and do that. And it was open to the public, which was crazy awesome. I mean, I saw nobody else doing this. And I remember Rick would see me on all the webinars. And one of the cool things about how we do webinars is we'll have like a little PowerPoint presentation part and do a actual live, here's how it works, and show you stuff. And so there's about an hour of that. And then and typically, the webinars are about an hour. And then at the end of it, Rick invited people to, if you want to hang around and talk and ask questions and, be specific about stuff, we call it sandbox time, and let's do that. And I was the guy that always hung around at the end. And and I was amazed by what it could do. And I mean, I would really pick Rick's brain, and he was so patient and stuff. And so I reached out very early about coming on with him, but the timing was bad. They were kind of new and just getting their feet under them. So I was real early, but just hung in there, and our paths crossed at just the right time. And we had a long conversation, and here we are.
Awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
So we got a comment that says, "Hi, Jordan and friends. Just stopped in to say hello and thank the madVR crew for the more affordable option. It's appreciated. I'll catch the replay after work."
Awesome, Rob.
And look who we got in the chat. We got Brett.
Oh,
What's going on, Brett?
Hey, buddy.
Yeah, we're going to talk about CEDIA here too. So, yeah, that's a good segue into. So, I think most people that are familiar with madVR know the products that you have, but obviously you have the new product, the madVR Corr edition. So, tell us a little bit about how the Corr edition came out, because I know I've seen some of the videos and a lot of people were saying, "Hey, man, we love the madVR," and I'm not going to lie, I was one of the ones that was like, I would love to have a madVR, but it's a little bit out of my price range, which is understandable. You got a company, you've got to price it a certain way. But now we have this affordable option, which is awesome. So how did that come about?
Yeah, so we listen, and we're at these shows, and we do several shows throughout the year, and we're in Europe once a year for the big show out there. Of course, we're at all the CEDIAs, and we're at all sorts of regional shows, do some local shows. And at every show, there were always people throughout the day that were like, "Come on, man! Like, when are we going to get something that the rest of us can afford?" And I would say, well, you never know. One day, and so we listened. We wanted to make sure that we could provide a more budget-friendly version without sacrificing any quality, right? So we didn't want to say, okay, here's an affordable version, but the tone mapping isn't as good, or, it has some of these other drawbacks, right? And so really the key was, how can we deliver this product in such a way where, it can be within reach for a wider audience, especially like for TVs. It's getting so popular with using madVR on TVs and video walls, along with projectors too. And so the timing really was great, and we worked really hard at it, and then and here we are with this price point that has really been affordable for a lot of people.
Yeah, that's really great. And we can talk about this a little bit more too. But just in the last month and a half, you've got the madVR Envy Corr, and then you've got the Kaleidoscape Strato V now. So like I told people my live stream last week, these companies are listening. It takes a while, I'm sure, for development, research. Again, like you said, you want to make sure that you don't sacrifice, quality, bringing features. Obviously, at a lower price point, you're not going to get everything that you're going to get on the flagship model. But going through the spec list, I mean, there's really not anything for me that I would really be missing as far as like the AI. Some of the AI stuff. Everything else, I'm like, man, this is an amazing time to be a home theater enthusiast. And you may have to save up for a little bit, maybe a year and a half. But I feel like this price point is much more attainable for most people. Like I said, even if you have to save up for a little bit, so it's really great.
Yeah. The word that we keep hearing is approachable, right? When we'll talk to people and be like, hey, like this is something that has got my attention and something that, tell me really more about it, right? Because sometimes we would do shows, especially, shows like Audio Advice, where they're, end user focused and enthusiast focused. And they would want to see demos of the Extreme and really be wowed by it and really enjoy it. But, it wasn't even like a thought, right, that they would even want to try to own one day, even if it was something that they could afford. They may not be let back in the house, by their spouse if they were to do something like that, right? And so that was really kind of the big difference, right? And we had a great show at Audio Device Live, is where we debuted the product, and it was really cool because a lot of people keep saying like, hey, can we use this on a TV? And so what we actually did for this show for the first time is we had two Sony, what is it, A95, Joey? What was the model that we have? Do you remember?
I can't remember. It was two big Sony OLEDs.
Yeah, whatever the big Sony, like real popular high-end OLED is.
A95J or K or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it might have been an L. So I'm not sure, but it was two of those, 265s, and we had them side by side. Mm-hmm. And we had a splitter so that one was routed directly from the source and the other was routed through the Envy. And, when we do these demos, we usually are going back and forth on the same display. But this time they could run side by side and you could see the tone mapping differences. You could see the motion handling differences. And it was really like a fun way to show. And another thing that was really cool that I didn't expect, the viewing angle on these TVs was so amazing. So we could be all the way on one side having a conversation. You could still probably from like a, 20-degree angle, you could still like see all the differences. So that was pretty cool. So, that really got a lot of people's attention, understanding better, like, what it can do on a TV, which I'd be happy to talk about if you want to hear a little bit more about that. Because a lot of people think, oh, I thought this was just for projectors, right? But those days were, long behind us.
Okay. Yeah, we could talk about that too. So tell me a little bit about these images here. So I know we've got the side here. So this is rack mountable, and it's a slimmer profile. So that's another thing that I'm glad that you guys did, because I think the madVR, I think this is more rack friendly than the other options that you have. I'm sure the other ones are rack mountable as well, but this looks like it was meant to be in a standard like 19-inch or whatever rack.
Yeah, the feet are easy to come off, and it does come with rack ears.
Nice,
including the screws for the rack rail.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's gonna be a lot easier for people to just go ahead and just automatically, as long as you have the space, you can just automatically integrate it. So I was curious about the back panel on this, because I noticed, and you can tell me more about the HDMI ports on the the Extreme and the Pros, but I noticed you only have one HDMI here, and you've got some display ports. So tell me a little bit about the IOs on the back of this.
Yeah, so what you're looking at is the primary HDMI output that's labeled as such. The other three are DisplayPort 1.4, I think 1.4A ports, and we have plans to enable those. And I don't really remember. I think we're planning to, on the Corr and Corr Premium, to enable a second one, and all the way up to the Extreme, we are planning to have enable all of them. So you could technically have 4 outputs, but there's still some R&D to do on that. It's listed on our spec sheet as being on our roadmap, but that's what those will be used for.
Okay. So you've got your, I'm assuming this will go to your projector or your display, and then the pass through is for gaming, correct? And
Right.
you're going to
It's a
be doing
zero
gaming.
latency pass through. Yeah.
Okay. And then over here you've got your LAN, and then you've got IR, and then what are these other USB? Are those USB?
Yeah. Yeah. There's a USB. One is for IR, one is for RF. And you
Okay.
have your LAN port as well as two additional ones. So you can use one of those, for example, to power an active fiber cable, or you can also connect the keyboard to the Envy, which can be really handy for doing things like, especially during setup, like renaming profiles or things like that.
Got you. And then here we have the front, and this is really clean, man. I like the design on this. It looks really clean, and I really like the color. You know, it's I guess is that black or grayish?
Yeah,
I don't know if that's just the image.
it's probably just the lighting and the image. It's mostly a black. I wouldn't say it's like a piano dark black like the Envy Extreme is. But it is black. And what you're looking across the front there, those are four 80 millimeter fans
Okay.
that bring air into the case to keep it cool and straight through design out to the vented back, right? And then you have additional ventilation on the top as well. And it was interesting. Originally, we were trying to not have any vent holes on the top. And when we did our thermal tests, because we do a crazy amount of tests on thermals among other things to make sure that the everything's going to perform how we want, and that it's flexible and versatile, and how you can install it and where you can install it. And it became pretty clear very quickly once we got deeper into the prototyping stage that vent holes in the top were going to help. But when I first had the production, or I should say the production prototype in my hand, the finished thing that you see now, I really like the way that the holes look. Like there's something about it, especially like in person, like it doesn't look like holes. I can't really explain it. It's kind of like this cool kind of mesh look. And as it turned out, we did not have to vent the whole thing. Probably about what you're looking at, I would say roughly about the left third
Okay.
is really all that was needed. But if you try to picture that in your mind, like that would kind of look weird, right? Like having the left third, from front to back vented and then solid all the way. So
Yeah.
we were like, hey, you know what? It looks cool. And it still does help some, right? I mean, the biggest bang for the buck on the venting happens on the left side, but it still does help. So, that's how we kind of came up, and we really worked hard. You can't really see the accent here. You can see it a little bit, across the top, where you see the grid. Yeah, that's a better view.
Yeah, that's a better picture.
You go back a couple other ones. One more. Yeah, you can see it.
Okay.
You can kind of see like these lines, right? Like trying to figure out where do we start the lines? Where do we end the lines, right? Like, what do we do for these patterns? Like, I can't even tell you how many permutations of this we looked at, right? And ultimately we wound up going with one of the more simple designs, right? Which was to just kind of, trim that top right corner where you can see it, just kind of broke it up. And what we were going for is like a really kind of sleek, modern look. And so we hope that we hit the target there.
So was it always the idea to make something in a smaller form factor? Obviously, I'm sure that like the parts in the video card, maybe a little bit not as powerful as the Extreme or the Pros. But did you guys start off saying, "Hey, we want to make this smaller," or was it something that just evolved? Where you're like, we don't need to make it that big.
Yeah, well, that's really interesting that you say that, because believe it or not, this has the same GPU that's in the Envy Pro. So
Okay,
when we were
nice.
talking earlier about how can we do this in a way where we do not sacrifice any quality, right? And literally we have, the same NVIDIA 4060 card that's packed into here. So it's a very compact design. Don't let it fool you. The thing is built like a tank. It still weighs about 20 pounds
Oh wow.
in a small package, right? So it is about half the weight and half the size and half the price, essentially, of an Envy Pro. So doesn't have the full feature set. Some of the hardware, on the Pro is more advanced, but this will, give you the core processing that people, like when they think about madVR. This is the core functionality that they're after.
That's awesome. Yeah, so I guess you guys debuted this at Audio Advice Live. So let's talk a little bit about the Audio Advice Live first impressions, because this is the first time the world has seen it. Joy, what was your experience with the people that were there, that were coming up to and being able to experience it, and the feedback that you got?
Yeah, they were. It was overwhelming. I mean, we were just so pleasantly pleased. I mean, everybody was interested, and they came up and wanted to see it, and wanted to touch it, wanted to see it in action. And it was really cool that we were able to have those two displays up there. One display was just a display like you watch it at home, and the other display was, we could show them, here's the features. And it was amazing. It's like Rick said, we didn't grab features out, strip them down, and put in this. It's the same features. And when they saw the difference that the features made, and then they could go, there was another room that had an Epson in it. We can talk about that too if you want to. And but they would go back and forth, and just, they were blown away at the difference. People don't realize the challenges that HDR brings all of our homes. It is high dynamic range, so we have, it's brighter and the colors are more saturated, but there's the challenge with that. And so when they could see that, and most people have a 16:9 set, and when we showed them, we show them aspect ratio control and nonlinear stretch technology, and how they could have a more visual real estate on their display. They were, a lot of times we wouldn't even mention that feature. We would be showing like HDR dynamic tone mapping, and somebody would say, there's more picture on this set than there is on the other one. Mm-hmm. And they were like, how do I make mine do that at my house? So it was really cool that people could see what it was, and that it was, I think the affordability to it also made it more attractive to learn more about it. Yes, we have high-end models, we are in high-end systems, and but that the fact that this is the exact same features in our core features, our hero features in this unit at that price. I mean, people were putting it together at the combination, even the guys that had large flat screen TVs, because that's what we always demo on, to show all our features and the difference it makes. And then they were putting it together that, man, this would be great at my house and my system.
Nice. Richard, what was your experience like getting the feedback from Audio Advice Live?
Yeah, it was fantastic. I mean, just to finally share this with the world, and kind of get in with the excitement of everyone. This product was very well received, probably even more so than our initial launch product or the Mark II. I mean, people were excited, but within the enthusiast community, people really are super excited about what this brings, and kind of the trend that that Kaleidoscape and we are putting in motion, to trying to bring the higher luxury gear experience down into the more approachable range. And one thing that was really kind of caught me by surprise, but there were several people that actually thanked us for being there, and thanked us for making this more affordable product. And that kind of took me by surprise, because we're not looking for thanks like that, right? I mean, we're a manufacturer, we're trying to bring products to market, but we were so appreciative of it. It was so kind and heartwarming to kind of feel the love, right? When someone started the stream, when you started the stream, someone made a comment like, hey, I'll catch the, yeah, okay, there it is. Thank the madVR crew for the more affordable option, so, that's great. And this was our way too of kind of, we wanted to do this for a long time. I mentioned that our roots are with enthusiasts. And so this is something that we really had been wanting to do. And we're well aware that people were a little bit frustrated, for the past several years, because, they loved what it could do. but they wanted it themselves, and it's great now being able to share in all that excitement. So Audio Device Live was phenomenal. It was a great turnout. We had 4 of us from the madVR team out there, our US team, most of us. And it was really great. We had some good food and some great cannolis, and you know, met a lot of great people. The other thing Joey had kind of touched on, there were, I think, 5 other rooms with Envies at the show. You know, there was a JVC there with an Envy. We had an Envy Corr, second Envy Corr there in the Epson and Kepf room, which was really great because that's a great pairing when you're talking about like a $5,000-$6,000 projector or TV with the $5,000 price point. So that was great. And there was a couple other TVs there. We had Storm there with Theory Audio Design that were using an Envy on a TV as well. And Joey, I can't remember what else was in there that we were with, like kind of lost track of all the rooms it was in.
Yeah. And we had a Sony 380 room that had us.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's Sony, the GTZ 380. That was really great room.
Yeah, that was really nice.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that I think, you know, I myself have, we were talking, you know, off screen, I myself have an Epson LS12000. And, you know, I know sometimes Epson kind of gets a little bit of a bad rap. People say, oh, it's not, the black levels aren't as good as something like JVC, which, you know, may be true. It's a different price point, a much different price point. Still a great projector. But now, that's kind of moot. You can get you a LS12000 or 11,000 and get you a madVR, and I mean, it'll put you right on par.
It was such a that image was really good.
Yeah, I've been hearing some people talk about how great it was. So I was like, man, you know, I'm looking forward to seeing that. And I remember when you guys sent us the excuse me, the embargo. I was like, oh man, this is shaking up the industry. I can't wait to share this with people because this is going to be, you know, you have the Kaleidoscape thing, and now you've got the madVR. I'm like, this is going to be big because this is the one that people have been saying like, hey, we want to be able to get into that, you know, to that price point, which is actually a good segue into, you know, talking about the price. But before we do that, I did want to ask, how long does development take on something like this from inception to Audio Device Live? Is it years? Is it months? Like, how long does this?
Oh yeah, years.
It's a long time.
There's a lot of engineering involved. There's a lot of planning involved. There's a lot of prototyping involved. Things always take longer, you know, than you want them to, right? I mean, I've been really excited about this product for so long, and I couldn't wait, you know, to share it with the community. And I was hoping they would be excited about it and love it. And, you know, it came with some concerns too. Like, how do we make this thing look nice? Right. Like,
yeah,
you know, like how do we make it look nice and modern and sleek and cool while keeping it cool, right? Because people still want so, you know, there's so much from head to toe, packaging engineering, you know, firmware engineering. I mean, all the thermal tests and all that kind of stuff. It just kind of goes on and on, right? But, you know, you keep just kind of chipping away at it. And, you know, before you know it, time actually goes faster than we all think. What's the expression, Joey? The days are long and the years are short, right? So turn around and here we are. Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, Jordan, one of the things that we are fanatical about is we stress and focus on every little piece. I remember when we were coming out with the Extreme Mark II, I mean, even like the rack ear screws that went with that. I mean, we focused and on every little piece. And even like, well, on the Extreme with the rack ear screws, that it was like, we're going to include an extra screw in here because eventually we all trying to, and we drop that one and hit your foot and it's under the rack and it's gone for eternity.
I've had that happen.
So we even include an extra screw for that. So we on every nook and cranny of the stuff. And, you know, as the reference standard in video processors, we couldn't let the Corr come out and not live up to our high standards. So it was a labor of love that we wanted to make sure that everybody enjoyed as much as we do.
That's great.
Yeah, that's a good point Joey brings up, and it's not really the point isn't so much that, oh, you get 5 screws, right? The point is that we're thinking about the installer, the end user, right? Like you mentioned, Jordan, we've all been there, right? Where you drop a screw, it's gone, and
It's
you
in the
could
ether.
literally spend 5-10 minutes or longer looking for it. It's under the rack or whichever. It's in the corner of the room and those spider webs, you can't find it.
Yep.
You know, so it's just the idea that we're just thinking, right, about every nook and cranny, and even the screws are, you know, custom made, right? So just to get that perfect fit. So this is kind of our crazy attention to detail, which is also manifests itself in the picture quality, right? I mean, we're all at the company crazy obsessed. Our company tagline is every pixel counts. And Matthias, who heads up our R&D, is right at the top of the list in terms of being a perfectionist, right? And on every single pixel. And in the end, you know, it manifests itself in a gorgeous image.
Nice. So what year did you guys actually start working on this? How long ago?
The product itself?
Yeah. Or just from the very beginning when you guys started talking about it. How many years are we talking?
Probably 2017, something like that.
Wow. Man, so we're talking seven years from inception to fruition. That's a lot of work, man.
Yeah, to where we are now, right? I mean, we had the first prototype in 2019. You know, when I brought it to CEDIA, and that was really cool. That's where we kind of first debuted it, and you know, there was just one, right? Just like one Envy in the world, right? And I'd lug it around with me in this big old Pelican case. And just always so nervous, right? Like checking it on the plane. Like, it's not like if something happens to it, I don't have it for the show. If something happens to it, we don't have it, right? Like, you know, there's one,
This is it.
you know, right. And so, you know, but you know, you kind of start there, and then it was very big, you know, traction there. We met a lot of cool people. We got a lot of great feedback. And then in 2020, we were at ISE, and we were in the Alcon's Sony, was it probably the Sony 5000, not the baby 5000, but the big one. You know, and the Sony team was really like super friendly, and a lot of people kept coming over to us and saying like, you guys are on to something, keep going. And we met a lot of our distributors, almost all of them that we started with them at that show. You know, 4+ years ago, and they're still our distributors to this day. So it's been pretty wild. Our rate of innovation, I think, is extremely high. You know, if you look at the new features and things that we keep piling on, you know, we're working tirelessly to innovate and come out with more and more stuff, which you just go online, right through the Envy, right through the menu, and boop, there comes your new version with all your new features to play with. You know, some people kind of compare it to like a Tesla, right? Where it's like, oh, now I got these new features I can drive. It can do this, it could do that. Let's play with it. So, you know, we're very much kind of set up the same way.
That's awesome, man. So
yeah. And the Corr also was a labor of love that was in process for a long time before we debuted it last week.
Yeah, man, definitely labor of love. So that's great. Okay, let's talk about the Envy Corr price point, upgrades, upgrade path, and then availability, US, you know, where it's available, if it's going to be available at different times. So I guess why don't we start at the price point?
Yeah, so right now, what we announced is that the introductory pricing is $4,995, and that price will run through the end of the year. It will be available simultaneously across approximately 40 countries where we currently sell and have distribution partners and dealers in. And, you know, that's our anticipated ship time is fall. So not that long from now. In fact, we should probably wrap up. No, I'm just kidding. There's just an unbelievable amount of work that we need to get through, and it's really just a big team effort, and everyone at madVR is really kind of giving it their all, to make all this happen. So I'm really grateful for that.
Okay, and we have a question on the subject. Says, at this price range, how long will you think this will support new content, and will it be upgraded as new formats are released?
Yeah, that's a great question. And just to make sure that we're talking about the same thing. So the Envy is not a media player, right? So it is a pass-through device. So you use a source like a Kaleidoscope or an Apple TV, Blu-ray player, that sort of thing, cable TV box. But the hardware is backward compatible. So for example, the earliest models that we have that we came out with in the beginning of 2020 still run essentially every function and feature that we still make available today, right? So when we push a new feature or update out, it goes across our whole customer base. And it doesn't matter if your unit is 4 or 5 years old, or if it's 3 months old, you still have access to that feature if it's included in the model that you have. So, and, in some cases we can start to, max out the GPU, but the product is very smart and knows how much muscle that it has available for any given situation based on the signal type and the frame rate and the resolution and all the features you asked it to do. And so it juggles all this. Actually, something we call the AOA, which is the algorithm of algorithms. Like, this is the king of the hill, right? So this sits at the top and it says, okay, what do we got coming in? Okay, what do they want going out? Okay, now where's the list of things that they asked me to do? Okay, all right, let me prioritize them. I'm going to run this at ultra high level. I'm going to run this at medium. I'll run those at lower, and so forth. And so, it balances all that so that you get this great output. And it's, that automatic real-time tuning is a feature itself in the product that people don't realize is there. But back to the original point of the question, the Envy is very versatile. When we came out with the Mark II, the Envy Extreme is paid upgradable. So in the case of the Envy Mark II, we have a great trade-in program. It's still available now. So when that came out at $16,000, people were able to, I think it was about $4,000 or something like that, were able to send their Envy Extreme back in and get a brand new Mark II with a new 5-year warranty and all that stuff, get a brand new unit, right? So generally upgrades in the future will be paid hardware upgrades. But in the case of the Mark II, you couldn't fit, there's no way to fit the GPU in the older case, right? Because it's so big and powerful. But the new Mark II case, is set up for that in the future. So, the upgradability is great on the Extreme, and the feature set, it's sort of like essentially you just go online and you can click what we talked about and just keep downloading stuff that we make available, and those updates are free.
Awesome. So I think you may have already answered this question, but I'll go ahead and read it anyways. It says, the great thing that the Corr seems to have going for it is the two big brothers are now in Generation 2. So that being said, the Corr is still a Gen 1 product. So how frequently will software/firmware updates be available? And I think
that's a fantastic question, and it allows us to really kind of drive home a key point. The Envy Corr runs the same exact firmware as the Envy Pro and the Envy Extreme. Okay, so its capabilities are different. It doesn't have all the features and functionality, for example, of a Pro Extreme. It's the same exact firmware. So even though this is a brand new product, like, the question is like, will it be buggy? Will it, like you would expect a new product to be on the market? No. Also, all the HDMI handling, that takes time in the beginning on a new product to work out, it's the same exact HDMI handling. It's the same exact handling on the output. As I mentioned, it's the same GPU as the Pro. So you can really think of this as and in fact, it is the identical firmware that runs on an Envy Extreme Mark II is running on the Envy Pro runs on the Corr as well.
Okay. And for the Corr, there is a upgrade package that you can add on additionally, right? That extends the warranty and a couple other features.
Yeah, so there is a Corr Premium package that is available. It's an aftermarket purchase. So the cool thing about that is you don't need to decide day one. You don't need to worry about what I need to do, right? So when you go in to buy a new cell phone or you buy one online, you better make sure you pick the right size and the right model and the right color, because that's going to be yours for the next X number of years. For this, you could just start with the Envy Corr. If there's features in the product in the Corr Premium package that you want, you can get that right away. If there's nothing in particular that you find that you want at that time, that's fine. You can take your time. And hey, all of a sudden, oh my goodness, this new cool feature came out, and so in the Corr Premium package, I want it. You can just go into the menu, and it'll bring up a QR code. You scan that QR code with your phone, and go to a web page. It'll automatically know your serial number, enter your credit card information, and just like that, you know, it's now unlocked and opened up those features. So very much something you can decide later. Now, you did mention one of the key things about this is that it also doubles the warranty period from 2 years to 4 years. So if you want the extended warranty part that comes along with that, you do need to purchase the upgrade package by the end of the second year. Now, in the third year or fourth year, you could still always get the Corr Premium package, but at that point, it won't extend the warranty.
Okay. And correct me if I'm wrong. The price. I know when you guys sent us the memo, the pricing. There's a special pricing through December. Is that correct?
Yeah. So that's $995, and that's also introductory pricing through December. And the other thing, I imagine you have quite a few users around the world. You know, we should mention all the pricing that we're talking about is US based. You know, pricing is higher in Europe and overseas. And also when you are looking at pricing in Europe, just remember that the number that you see there typically includes 20+% tax, right? So a lot of times that can be, you know, for a European buyer, they don't realize that, you know, the tax rates in the US necessarily are much lower and not included in the MSRP. So, but I just wanted to, you know, put that out there so anybody watching overseas knows to check with their local Envy dealer to get pricing, because it does vary per territory.
Okay. Aaron says, thank you. I assumed a customer would get several projectors before ever replacing this Corr. It's nice to have something low enough to offer customers now. So thank you.
Yeah, several projectors or displays or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess while we're on that subject too, tell us a little bit how this isn't just something that can only work on projectors. How does it work with TV? If somebody has, and like you said earlier too, now these LED video walls are starting to get really popular. How does that work with, you know, the different aspect ratios that you could get with something like that, like a video wall? Is there any limitations to the display or aspect ratios that even the Envy Corr can do?
Yeah, so that's a great question also. So first and foremost, if the Envy Extreme is in budget, and you're talking about using it on the TV or video wall, the motion AI that's in the Envy Extreme is life-changing. I mean, it really is a great breakthrough. It's something that we worked on for years. It was something that was promised from the beginning, right? So it was maybe 3 years from the time it was on the roadmap, and we kept telling people, if it's in budget, in one day, when our motion handling comes out, you'll probably be happy you have an Extreme. And then when that day came, you know, people were very happy about that, and we could talk more about that later. We could circle back to it if you want, but essentially motion AI is what we like to say the world's first motion interpolation that people actually want to use. And you know, that's a whole nother topic, right? So that's really great, because the bigger and brighter the TV, the more issues there are with motion artifacts and motion blur. And so this does a great job counteracting that, and can still deliver a cinematic look. You know, that was something that was really high up on our priority list with motion AI, is to not just make something that looks like a big soap opera, but being able to just have just a smidge, like the smallest amount you could imagine, that, you know, lower than any other TV or display can do, and to control those artifacts. But outside of that, you know, the other key features that you get with an Envy Corr on a TV are the HDR dynamic tone mapping, okay, and that's one of the key things that we demonstrate, and being able to make sure that the colors are great, that details in the brights still remain and don't get crushed, right? You don't have like a splash of water that just looks totally white, but rather you can see every single water droplet in the splash. And the same thing on the dark end, right? So you've got things like, making sure you don't crush details in the black. So that's the whole HDR, and we could do a whole show just on that. But that's kind of the HDR in a nutshell. The other big thing that's often overlooked, and people are usually stunned to learn this, our nonlinear stretch is bidirectional. We actually have a patent pending on it. So we stretch both vertically and horizontally, and we can compress vertically and horizontally. What this means is our nonlinear stretch is for 16:9 screens also. Okay. And whether we're talking about a projector screen or TV screen. So one thing that people love to do with our nonlinear stretch, when you're watching a scope movie on a 16:9 screen, it is brutal, right?
Yes.
I mean, you have those big honking black bars, and the bigger your TV, the more annoying they are. And so how do you deal with that? Well, what we find is that most people can remove about half the black bars, half from the top and half from the bottom. Now, if you try to go the whole way, it can start to look a little wonky, right? Like people can start to look stretched or kind of weird. But interestingly enough, like at Audio Voice Live, I would say, we left about this much, right? And it doesn't seem like much. It almost from a little bit, like from 5 feet, looked more like a bezel than a black bar. And like Joey was saying earlier, people were like, we're showing tone mapping, and they're like, well, hold on a minute. Why is this look so much bigger, right, than this, right? And then we had to show them, oh, well, we're also getting rid of half the black bars. And so being able to bring back that immersion to a 16:9 screen when you're watching scope movies, that's huge, right? So that's a big part of what now. Is that something that people want to spend $16,000 for on a TV? That's a big stretch, right? But now when you're talking about an Envy Corr at a more affordable price, that's a whole different conversation. And so people are really attracted to that. Another key thing too is our upscaling. The Envy Corr does use AI-based upscaling, so it's not like it has no AI stuff. And this is really great because, especially here in the US, we're still watching a lot of 1080p, unfortunately, right? It's so frustrating that, it seemed like we hit a tipping point, I don't know, what was it, 20 years ago, where all of a sudden everything was switching over to HD, right? And now we're stuck there, right? So, we get some Olympic coverage right now in 4K. You might get a Super Bowl or the big game at 4K. But for the football game, maybe you get one or two on the weekend, but for the most part, all the TV we're watching is 1080p. And people also have Blu-ray collections that they like. There's a lot of content on Kaleidoscape that's 1080p. And so upscaling is still really important. And our upscaling is going to do a better job going from 1080p to 4K than you're going to find in most displays, right? So those are the three primary, like really kind of in your face benefits, that the Envy brings just to, a TV in that $2,500 to $5,000 price range.
So that's actually a good segue. I'm glad you brought that up because we had a question here. With newer players now offering 8K upscaling, will 8K support be a firmware update since the 4060 can support the resolution? Thank you. Last question.
Yeah, so we do currently support on the Envy Extreme. We can upscale and output up to 5K, 8K. The Envy Corr upscales up to 8K. So the players that are offering 8K upscaling, I would say that, if you have an 8K TV, I would say that they're probably comparable to what the TV is doing. As mentioned, you would be better off in that type of scenario, I believe, with an Envy Extreme that can take the 4K and letting the Envy do the heavy lifting to do that AI-based upscaling to 8K.
Okay. So, hey, what's going on, Rallis? So, Joey, why don't you tell us a little bit about some of the core features and specs and what this thing can do, and maybe I shared in the last live stream, so we don't have to do a deep dive of all the specs. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what makes this special at this price point and an entry level or entryway into madVR for most people?
Yeah, that's a great question. Like Rick said earlier when we started, the features, we call it the core because it's the core features, our hero features from the other units. And we didn't take it and strip them down to put in here to save some price. The HDR dynamic tone mapping, that was at both at M-Wave with the Extreme, but at Audio Advice Live 2 with the Core. People were really amazed at the difference. And one of the cool things that we found at Audio Advice Live with those two TVs, I mean, the two TVs were exactly the same make, exactly the same model, and we went through and set up exactly the same settings in both of them to make sure it was a fair comparison. So the only difference was the Envy in the system. And when we were doing the HDR dynamic tone mapping demos, and they would notice that, holy cow, there's more screen over here on this one. Another thing that we heard a lot was that it looks like this one is brighter than that one. Are you sure the settings are the same? Well, that goes back to the HDR dynamic tone mapping, because it's not just saying that, hey, here's 1,000 nit scene and we're making corrections for it for this 400 nit capable display. We're also doing highlight recovery and shadow recovery and gamma correction and all these other features that are included in that HDR dynamic tone mapping. So that is a really, really great feature. But again, it's got the aspect ratio control, it's got subtitle management, it's got the upscaling. There's a long list. And in fact, Jordan, what I can do is right before we finish up, and I know we're getting to the top of the hour, I can post a link to the comparison matrix in the chat so everybody can grab that and go look at it if they want to and really see here's the differences in the models.
Yeah, that'll be good. And one of the things I was going to ask you too, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but when it's doing the tone mapping, obviously everybody's display is not going to be the same. Projectors are not going to be able to output 400 nits, maybe, if you have a good one, but the madVR products have an ability to tone map according to what your display is capable of, right? And you enter in the information. Like, is that how that works?
Exactly. What you can do is you're going to, if you're front projection, you want to take a light meter and get that reading off the screen, coming from the projector, and we have test patterns in our systems that you can do that with. If it's a flat panel, all those usually provide that information in the manufacturer. So you're going to tell the Envy's 16:9 screen, I have a scope screen, output capability of the screen, and then the Envy's going to make sure that it's working with this partner to make sure that every pixel that display gets is working great for that display partner.
Okay. Anything to add to that, Rick?
No, I think Joey pretty much nailed it. There is an Envy Academy online, which you can get to from our homepage or madvrnv.com/academy online. And it is essentially 50 bite-sized lessons. Most of those are about 3 to 5 minutes, where we take you through every single aspect of the product, of what you really need to know to become proficient in using it. This is actually our dealer training. And we've had a couple of dealers or partners in the industry saying, like, what are you guys doing? Putting like the training online for the public and then users just do it. Why wouldn't we, right? We want our customers to be educated. We want our customers to learn and master the product, right? And so that's really important, because then they understand better, like, what am I buying? Can this actually do, what I'm thinking it can do, and how would it work? And nobody wants to be intimidated about the gear that they're putting in their system, right? And worry about, like, oh, this is going to be hard. How would I ever update it, right? Or how would I ever install it, right? So to that point, when Joey talked about the light mirror, right? So there is a lesson specifically on how to measure your peak nits, and whether you have an Envy or not, it's very educational to be able to do that. And for those that are in the industry, they can go on to become certified for Envy product specialists, and they can also earn, it's an approved CEDIA CEU course. so they can earn credits towards their continuing education as well. So I'd encourage everyone, whether you're interested in an Envy for yourself or you want to learn, to spend some time in the lessons and really get a good sense for everything the product can do and how it works, including how you would manage, your HDR and your brightness and your setup and so forth.
Yeah. And in
Yeah.
fact, let's see, Gerald is asking the question about LUTs, and that answer is in the Envy Academy.
Let's see, where's his? I started. Let me go to start here. Yeah. Will it be capable to create 1D, 3D LUTs with calibration software?
Yeah. So the Envy Corr, and this is a good way to think about the product. And Joey mentioned this earlier. It has its name because this is really the core essential features you would expect to find in a modern day progressive video processor, right? So our goal, a lot of people look through the list and say, my goodness, like this has practically everything, right? And that's the reason because, we did not want to cut any corners, and we wanted to provide an unbeatable price, performance, value, and benefits, and make sure it was jam packed with things. And so we consider calibration a core part of what we do and what a video processor should do. And so the Envy Corr, even just the base core, has full support for 1D and 3D LUTs, and they're also the largest LUTs possible in the market. So what do I mean by that? Like, for example, you could use color space and do a 4096.1 D LUT if that's what you want, versus just like a 15 or 21 point LUT, right? And likewise, the Envy 3D LUTs will be interpolated up to 16.7 million points, as opposed to what you may find with other forms of calibration, which they can be, maybe 4,000 or 5,000 points, right? And so, Gerald, this may be way more than you ever bargained for, but one of the advanced courses in the academy, it's in the 400. It's 510. Okay. Actually has Sammy Prescott Jr., who is a madVR, ISF level 3 certified tech, and Jason Dustal with AV Pro Edge, together walking through the Envy for Calman workflow, which is also free. Now you do need to have like a valid license for Calman, which is not available through us. You get that through your calibration, however that's sold. But once you have the proper license with Calman, you can download the Envy for Calman workflow from us and set that up. And then what you see in this video, it's about an hour long, where Jason and Sammy go through and just talk about, what's important, how to kind of get set up, what's the prerequisites, and then kind of review the calibration process, talk about the results, all that stuff. So it's more than you probably bargained for, but it's a long way of saying yes.
Yeah, and on the screen that Jordan was just showing, course number 425, there's right above that is the one about the LUTs.
Okay.
Yes.
Awesome. Let's see. Let's tackle some of these questions here, and then we have just, I think, a couple more things we can finish out on. So, let's see. Bobby Digital says, do you guys have a list of calibrators that experience calibrating madVR with your projector, with experience calibrating madVR with your projectors? We
do. Yeah. The best thing is to reach out to your dealer. A lot of dealers have, services that they offer for this. If your dealer can't help you, just go ahead and shoot us a line and we can connect you with either someone in your area or that's someone that would come out and do one for you if you want to get professional in-home calibration services.
Steven says, what CPU is this running on? I guess he's talking about the core.
Yeah, so generally we don't talk about specific hardware other than the GPUs. But on a related question, I see also someone asked if this is running on the Intel 13 or 14. I can say no. It is an AMD-based CPU.
Okay. Is I don't know if you can talk about it. Is there a reason why you guys went with AMD over Intel? Is it Has it do anything with the power, available
does.
features, or?
It does, and my partner would be in a better position to answer this, but I think the gist of it is has to do with its efficiency and also cooling, right? So those are very important things in everything we look at. Like even when we select a GPU model, right? We don't just pick any random, GPU, right? Like we always try to use the ones that have like the best, noise to cooling to performance ratios, right? So as you can imagine, if we're obsessing over the screws and customizing screws that are going onto it, every single one of these parts is picked, for a reason.
Yeah.
So Brian, what's going on, Brian? He says, will it benefit an ultra short throw projector, specifically Epson LS800?
It would be mind-blowing the difference that it will make for you.
Absolutely.
That's the only thing I could say. Yeah. See if there is a dealer in your area that has an opportunity to demo one for you, or maybe a friend or something like that. The difference that it makes in ultra short throw is crazy.
Yeah, and again, you can use this with any display, right? It's not like, oh, you can only use this with a long throw. You can only use this with a TV. You can use it with a monitor, I guess, if you wanted to, right?
Yeah. I mean, when we use them with monitors in our test lab and things like that, right? So
Yeah, but that's a great question because we hear that a lot, Jordan. Our claim to fame was when we came out, it was projection stuff, but it's if you come to any show, whether it's in user facing shows like M-Wave or Audio Advice, or any at CEDIA, will be on a big giant flat screen, and you can see on flat screen. In fact, a comment from M-Wave while we were there, we were on a 97-inch LG. And people would walk by and say, "Hey, I have that same TV at the house," but then they would stop and say, "But it's never looked this good. What are you guys doing?" And then we would stop and show them, "Here's all the features." And like with our Motion AI, we can split screen show. Here's what it looks like at your house, and here's what it could look like at your house. So yeah, we benefit any display.
Okay, and then so real quick, give us the madVR product lineup. So you got the Corr, and then what are the other ones that go all the way up to the flagship?
Yeah, sure. And before we do, if you don't mind, I just want to thank Stephen McGoley. He said kudos and thank you for making those videos available to everyone. You're very welcome. This was a project of passion, something that we have been wanting to do for a long time, and so we appreciate that this is something that you appreciate, and so thank you for saying that. That means a lot. Okay, so over to the product lineup. Sorry, Jordan.
Go ahead, man.
To comment on that. Yeah. So the product lineup, we have the Envy Corr, right? Step up from that is the Envy Corr premium package. Step up for that would be the Envy Pro and then the Envy Extreme. So let's talk about the Envy Pro for just a moment.
Okay.
Because a lot of people look at this and say, they look at the checklist and say, why would anyone ever buy a Pro, right? Because the Pro is basically $10,000, right? So the Corr, we talk about half the size, half the weight, half the price of the Pro. And the answer is that today, the two are rather similar. The gap will continue to grow for those that have invested in a Pro. The Pro will be getting more advanced algorithms as we continue to go. So the Corr will still get new features, fixes, all that as well. So that's all a part of our ecosystem. The Corr Premium may see a few more interesting features than the Corr, and it keeps moving up like that. The Pro will continue to see even more advanced features, and of course the Extreme is where the most AI-based features are. The hardware is more powerful outside of the GPU on the Pro. In the Extreme, we're talking about more RAM, more hard drive space, and more CPU power. These things are not playing a role in right now between the Corr and the Pro, but for things that are on our roadmap and ideas we have, they may play a role later. And so, it's funny when you go through the check boxes, and same thing on the Extreme. it's easy to look and be like, my goodness, like it's everything here. But one thing to pay attention to is that one checkbox that says like future advanced features and algorithms, right? Because there could be one checkbox that says, future advanced AI-based algorithms, and that one checkbox a year from now may be 3, 5, 7 different features, right? So a year from now, that could be expanded, right, to do that. So what we are advising people, if budget is of most importance and you're looking for something that is more budget friendly and affordable, you can't go wrong with the Envy Corr. It is by far the best price performance value, really unbeatable on what it can do, because we're delivering the features that it does are going to be the same quality levels that you get with a Pro or an Extreme for the most part. So that's really where that is. The Pro is for those that have more of a budget, that may like the more higher end case. It's got a more advanced cooling system, and it has other things too. It's got an additional, got the 5-year warranty, and it will have some more things as we go forward. When you get to the Extreme, that's when we start talking about things like 5K upscaling, 8K upscaling. We have our geometry control, which is very popular if you're using anamorphic lens. We could talk for an hour on that and how it completely undoes any barrel distortion. But even beyond that, I think that a lot of people that are into projection, like I am, can be pretty OCD like I am, right? Like you don't create a video processing company, with a slogan, every pixel counts, unless you are OCD like I am. And so, when you have a projected image, which is perfectly square and no overscan, no underscan, no wonky corner, because you straightened it out, I just can't stress to you how, what's the right word? Just how joyous it is, how satisfying it is to see everything perfectly square, because you don't generally see that with projectors, right? Like I think we all kind of accepted this, in the past, and a lot of us are probably still like that now. If you're not using Envy Extreme, you got a ticker across the bottom. If you really look, is it really straight?
Nope.
No, it's probably a little bit slanted. And where it really gets to you is, sometimes there's like this much under the ticker, right?
Yep.
Of the screen, right? The ticker doesn't go all the way bottom. It's like this much. But it's like this much on one side, and it's like this
have the
on the
exact
other
same
side.
problem.
And it drives you bonkers, right? So just the ability with this to completely square everything off. And when you see like a score, like a scoreboard or a ticker or some other graphic elements, a time thing, the kaleidoscope grid pattern, where it shows all the cover art and things like that. When you see that all perfectly lined up and squared, it's just so satisfying. So, that's just like kind of like a personal thing for me, that a lot of customers have shared that with me as well. So that's big. And then there's also things too, like the motion AI, and then we could come back, and we probably should sometime and do a whole show just on motion AI and what the future looks like, because we're still only getting started with these kind of algorithms.
So I know one thing that's still big with a lot of people, even though projectors are the only ones that are really doing it now. What about 3D? Because people are gonna, can I use this with 3D? Does it even enhance 3D? Does it make it better? Like, how does 3D work with a madVR product?
Oh, I see Joey smiling ear to ear. Jordan, I don't know. Joe, we're going to have to put a check in the mail for Jordan for teeing up that question. So yes, it fully supports 3D. But on top of it, and this is another industry first from us, and I believe we're the only product that does it like this. We have a feature that's called 3D Luma Boost. Now, I should say this is only in the Pro, the Envy Pro, and the Envy Extreme. So with 3D Luma Boost, it allows you to go up to 4 times the brightness
Oh, wow.
with 3D content, right? Because that is the
That's
biggest
awesome.
complaint.
Yeah.
with glasses is that, the glasses just make everything so dark. And so it's really, really cool to see for the first time and enjoy a movie with that kind of big brightness. I mean, up to 4x. So that's really cool. So not only do we support 3D, not only do we embrace 3D, because we're all big 3D fans ourselves, but then we've gone as far as to create, these innovative new features like the 3D Luma Boost. And we're also, I don't know where we are on it, but I believe we're also looking to do some other really cool things about related to 3D, but nothing I can really talk about right now.
Awesome. Man, that's really cool. Yeah. So I didn't know that you guys could do that. So is that something that it's using the light output based on your projector, or is it doing something completely separate from what your display is capable of?
Yeah, it's still a rather new feature. I think we just introduced it about 3 months ago.
Okay.
I don't know if this will do justice in explaining it, but it's essentially almost like a tone mapping for SDR, right? That allows us to dynamically redirect the light. I don't mean like physically, but it somehow manages to, reallocate the brightness, in the signal, effectively changing gamma, perhaps. I don't really know the details of it, other than it is very similar to how HDR tone mapping works, right? But it's doing this on an SDR signal.
That's pretty cool. That'll be interesting to see in person. Once it's ready.
Yeah. Oh, it's ready.
It's
You
out
can do
now.
that now.
Yeah.
It's out now. Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, it's a feature in the Pro and the Extreme.
Pro and Extreme clients from a firmware update for free. Got that
Nice.
feature. Yeah.
So someone actually had a question about this, and it was one of our topics. They said, "Can I set this up myself, or would I need a professional?"
So, Brian, if you have some extra time this weekend, I would suggest you go to the Envy Academy online, okay, and start towards the beginning. It walks you through everything, right? I mean, it teaches you everything about, what comes in the box. What tools do I need for installation, right? How do I set this up? Where am I putting the connections, okay? How are the menus organized, right? How do I navigate the menus? Where do I save global settings? Where do I override settings, right? I mean, the one really cool thing about the Academy is that it is structured to take you from baby steps, right? From I know very little, I'm just getting started, and it just builds all the way up. So if you jump in the middle, right, and do like a 200 lesson or 300 lesson, there may be some things that you're not quite understanding, and that there are points in there where we will say, like, okay, if you don't know, if it doesn't sound familiar, you probably jumped ahead, which is fine, but you can go back and do this. So these are the kind of things that are in that lesson. So the answer is yes. You can easily set up yourself, especially if you are, technically inclined, right? To be able to go through and do that. So the lessons will tell you everything you need to know as far as like, how am I supposed to set up my display? Right? Because it's not just the Envy too, right? There's things you need to, and Jordan, before we went on the air, you were mentioning, like, you were looking at the LS12000 setup lesson, right? Because, like, we tell you, okay, if you've got a Barco, or if you got a Sony, or you got a JVC, or you got an Epson, or whatever it is, like, these are the settings we recommend you put in there, and then you put in the Envy. So absolutely, I think that anyone that has just even a slight amount of technical inclination can master this. Would you think so as well, Joey? I mean, you've been through the lessons.
Yeah, it's you need a little technical background and the ability to go through it, but I think anybody can. It is one of the things I like about the Academy is that if I'm a end user and I have a question about how to set something, or maybe I want to tweak something, and I think I can tackle it myself, you can look. The lessons are laid out very well, and the explanations of each lesson is very clear as to what it is. And you could go in there and find, hey, I want to change this boundaries or something like that. I mean, you could go in and find that and walk yourself through it. But it's a great troubleshooting guide if you're having trouble to tweak a feature or something like that. You can go find that.
Yeah, and I can actually attest to that because it's funny. One of the questions that I was actually going to ask you guys on here was answered on the when I was looking at the LS12000, because my thought was, okay, the LS12000 has, dynamic setting, movie mode, cinema mode, all this. So I was like, it has to be on one of those profiles. But how do I adjust the profile to let the Envy, because you don't want your profile or the settings on the Epson messing up what the Epson is doing. And yeah, sure enough, I saw that one. I was like, oh, let me click on it. And I mean, you go step by step. Hey, make sure you change this setting. Make sure you go to the Luma, chroma, whatever. And
Yeah.
so I was like, oh wow, this is like super useful. So I think even if somebody isn't necessarily tech savvy, this is a good lesson to help them get to that point to where, oh, maybe I don't need to call a calibrator. This is good enough for me. And if you're somebody that, hey, I just need that extra, go the extra mile, I want to get the best out of it, then okay, let me call, a calibrator or somebody. But I mean, and one thing I noticed too is not just like the LS12000, you've got the settings for a JVC, Sony, so it's broad. It's a broad audience that people can just go on here, and it might take a little bit of time because you have to watch the videos, but
Yeah.
I actually enjoy that because now I know how this thing is working. I know what my projector is doing. If for
Yeah.
whatever reason something gets thrown off, I can say, hey, this doesn't look right. Let me go check my settings. Oh yeah, this is out of whack. So it's really, really cool.
And I would like to add that not only is that the CEO and co-founder of the company himself.
Yeah, exactly. I know. I was like, man,
And
I was like, is he on every video?
he's on every video. We did not, it would have been easy for us to sub this out to somebody and have them make it, but
Right.
we didn't want to do that. We wanted to make sure it was us. And Rick goes through it. When you watch him, you see how he's explaining it, and you can see, click this, do this, and if there's anything that that this comes up in it, he refers to the other video that is a previous video that it's related to, or hey, I'm going to explain this more in an upcoming video. So sometimes you can feel like you're lost, but he helps direct you either forward or backward to where he's going with the stuff. So it is we have had such great outpouring of appreciation for these things from our dealers and distributors and from end users alike.
Yeah, and thank you for that comment, Stephen. I saw that that you were able to find exactly what you needed through the JVC. That's really great. And Joey, as Joey mentioned, I did create all these videos. I don't think I've been right ever since. It was an unbelievably crazy undertaking.
I can't believe, man.
It's one of those things that I'm glad I didn't know what it was going to take when I started, because I'm not sure I would have ever gotten around to it. I would have found ways to keep, putting it off. But even some of those videos are 5 or 7 minutes. They can take about 8 to 12 hours on a 5 or 7 minutes of everything that goes in to prepare. And there's 50 of them, right? So this went on for a very long time. But as Joey mentioned, it was really important to me as the co-founder of the company to explain it exactly how I wanted it to be explained, to present it how I wanted it to be presented. I'm not saying it's the best way, and certainly I made plenty of mistakes along the way. But I just, being a perfectionist, right? I wanted people that were going to be watching this all around the world to really understand these things. And there was a lot of feedback, right? So people on my team and even outside my team would review these with me and say, oh, you know what, you should mention this. I'd be like, oh, okay. I'll put that in, right? But the thing was to get it all organized from the start. And that was really the key, right? Because just to map it out, I mean, I probably spent close to 2 months just literally mapping out what all the lessons would be and what would be covered in each one before we even started on it, right? So but it's cool. We're happy about it. The feedback has been great, and it's also not a coincidence that the Academy Online came out just before we released the Envy Corr. because, you know, the demand on everyone's time has gone through the roof. Even with the announcements, we're being inundated in a great way with messages, questions, press, media, new dealers, end users. And so it allows everyone to scale, right? So being able to go there and get answers to the questions, you know, really just kind of helps everyone, right? To teach a man to fish, right? You know that expression?
Yeah, if what is it? You can show a man to fish, and he can feed himself for like a day or something like that. But if you teach a man to fish, he can feed himself for a lifetime. You know?
There you go. It's
So
not always easy to pull that one
yeah,
out.
like how does it go again? But I think
Yeah.
that's a testament though, because like Joey was saying, it's not every day that you see the CEO of a company doing all of this. Because I mean, I know how long it takes just to shoot, you know, a video that's maybe 8 minutes. You gotta plan, you gotta prep, you gotta set up a camera, you gotta do all this stuff, and it can take hours and weeks just to get a 10-minute video. And I also think that that's awesome that you're putting your face there. So it's not just like, hey, this guy's the CEO of a company selling a product. No, he knows what he's talking about, and he's the one actually showing you how to do it. And I think that also makes people feel more more at ease that hey, this guy is at the front line doing all this stuff. Because like you said, you could have got halfway done and like, man, this is a massive undertaking. You know what? I'm just gonna push this off to somebody else to do it. I can't imagine imagine how long it took you to do all this stuff, man. So
Well,
that's really
the
cool.
next series of videos, you might see Joey's face on it. Because now I kind of know what's involved. It's harder. But yeah, no, I appreciate you saying that. And I think what helps come through too is that, you know, yes, I'm the CEO of the company, but I'm also one of our biggest fans and customers, right? Like, remember, at the core of this is a video processor that I wanted for myself, right? And so I got to tell you, you know, we work 12-hour days, 14-hour days, 16-hour days this past month. Of course, I'm doing all these videos at the same time. You can imagine the mountain of work going on at the same time to get the core to market, right? So there's a million things going on. But at the end of the day, literally, I like to go down in my theater and try to like get like a half an hour or an hour
You're an
and
enthusiast too.
enjoy what we've built, right?
Yeah, that's awesome.
And it's just very rewarding, not just to see, you know, the video quality and improvements, but just to be able to experience it. And sometimes it's a battle, right? Because I in my head, because, you know, I may be finishing up at 2 or 2:30 a.m. Like, I gotta get into the theater, you know, maybe just for half an hour, and I spend an hour down there, and then I don't want to get going to bed until 3:30 in the morning, and I shouldn't have gone down in the first place. But, you know, I feel like I at least should get my fix in, right? It's kind of like my reward at the end of the day, right? So anyway, thank you for saying that, and that is a big part of it, is that, you know, we're all very passionate about what we're doing, and we enjoy bringing this to the market. We love doing shows, right? I mean, shows are a big pain in the butt, lugging stuff around and all the logistics and where's this and who did that and who's got this. But once you're all set up and you get to meet people face to face, people that you may have been talking to on the phone, or, you know, from other countries and so forth, it's really a great thing, and you get to share it, right? And in some ways, I guess, like a musician enjoys playing, you know, for people that likes performing, you know, their music. You know, we like to demonstrate and show people and turn them on to what the Envy can really do to, you know, really change your world for video.
Yeah, and we're home theater, you know, geeks ourselves, so we like asking, you know, like, what gear do you guys have? And me, because I'm such a movie nut, I'm always looking for what's a good movie that nobody's heard of that's good to see. So I always like talking about movies, and this is the crowd to have that conversation with.
Definitely. And along those lines, when you, Rick, when you were talking about how busy you guys are, so Joy, we were talking before Rick came on offline, and you were saying that how crazy it's been, even not just since Audio Vice Live, but even before then. So why don't you tell everybody how many emails you get a day?
It's been super exciting. At times it's a little overwhelming. I was telling Jordan before I took a 15-minute break today to and I had an email teed up that got back. I'm like, I gotta step away for 1 second. And when I email, and I'm like, where did that email? How did I lose an email in 15 minutes time? What did my computer do? And push to the next page because 50 emails had come in that
In 15 minutes.
minute time frame when I took that break.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and it's been but we're a global company. We're in over 40 countries and growing consistently in that number. And so the outreach in wanting to find out how to acquire our products from our global dealers has been just humbling, and we're so excited to help people get the best picture. When Rick say, that every pixel counts, guys, that's 8 million pixels. That's a lot of carrying. So we really care about your viewing pleasure, and that's what drives us. And we're movie nuts, and we understand what we want a good picture to look like. So, but yeah, I've been busy.
Brett says, Joy, you mean you like to watch movies?
Oh yeah. If you guys like to watch movies too, and you're serious about it, you should join me on Letterboxd, LETTERBOXD, no E in the end of it, and find me there. I'm just Joey Peacock there, and you can follow me and see my history in film. I try to watch a movie a day. I looked at my Letterboxd this morning. I'm like, holy cow, with being gone and being so busy and putting in all the hours, I've only got one movie in like the last 8 days. This is a problem.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
that's funny. Well, we got a couple more questions, and then we'll close out with some CEDIA talk. But we have Anthony that says, why not open all features on a la carte basis instead of just premium core? If you tax the GPU, that is expected, but the GPU should handle any single feature if you're running just one.
Yeah, so a few people have asked us that, and it's an interesting question. It's not something I can really comment on, but I certainly understand why people, would be intrigued by that idea.
Aaron says, what improvements will the DIY audience see from their HTPC JRiver with madVR compared to the Corr?
Yeah, that's a great question, and we have a list somewhere that goes over every single detail, but excuse me, off the top of my head, the main things you're going to get there would be, and if we're talking about the Corr specifically and not things like Motion AI, the HDR tone mapping is going to be very similar. The aspect ratio handling is, completely different, right? So the Envy does instant aspect ratio handling. The ACPC one does react, but not as fast. The Envy, of course, also has the nonlinear stretch, which is really important to a lot of people. And the other big thing for many people is that, the ACPC version does not support any sources that have HDMI outputs, right? So couldn't use it with a Kaleidoscope, Blu-ray player, Apple TV, those types of things. And there's a bunch of stuff. If you want to drop us an email, I know we're kind of running short on time. But if you want to drop us an email, I'd be happy to kind of go into more detail about all the different differences that there are.
Yeah, go ahead and do that, guys, and you can drop a comment in the video afterwards, after the live stream ends, and if I see something, I can send it to them. So I guess to close out, CEDIA is coming up in September, less than a month. I'll be there, so I'll get to check out the Envy Corr in person. But what do you guys got going on at CEDIA?
Yeah, CEDIA is going to be another monster show for us. There'll be probably something close to about a dozen Envys throughout the show floor in various booths, exhibits, everything from super high-end demo theaters, flat panel TVs, all sorts of displays like that. We have two of our major partner rooms that we're intimately involved with. Are at the main Trinoff room. If you guys have been to CEDIA or seen Intermedia before, you know that we always partner generally with the same group. So that would be Barco, Trinoff, Perlisten, Kaleidoscape, Aficionada Acustica, and Seymour screens in that room, and that will be with the Envy Extreme Mark II with the Barco Nerthus, which is their big dog.
I haven't heard of that one.
All guns blazing. I mean, that thing is just, that's top of the market.
Because M-Wave, they have the Nord.
Among the best, right? Right at the top. So,
the Nord is really toward the middle of the line, and the Nerthus is the Mount Everest.
I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah, that is Barco's Mount Everest for sure. And then also, and I believe that's a 13.14.6 Atmos system.
13.14.
Waveforming,
I guess.
Yeah, they'll be running the Chernobyl waveforming. So that's really exciting. And then a more modest room that we will have with the Envy Corr for the first time will be with Christie, JL Audio, Kaleidoscape, PMC, Seymour Screen Excellence. I believe Panamorph maybe in that room as well. And so that should be really cool. So be sure to check out those demo rooms. We also, at our immediately outside the Chernobyl Theater, like you literally won't be able to miss it. When you walk out of the door after your demo, there will be a 97-inch LG OLED that we will have out there. And we'll be doing comparisons. We'll have the Envy Corr there. We'll have the Envy Extreme Mark II there, connected up on that display. So this is kind of what we call like our deep dive demo, right? So if any of you guys are coming out to CEDIA, please come see us at that booth. Is it 2938, Joey? I just want
2938. Yeah, and if in case you didn't mention it, the speakers are Perlisten.
Oh, okay. I'm so sorry if I missed it. Yeah. That's in the main Chernobyl Theater, right? Perlisten is in there.
Yeah. That's that big Mach 13, 2014.
Right. I mean, that's all the speakers and subs
those Perlisten subs.
Yeah, they really make some amazing products. Perlisten, I love that room. I can't wait to hear those speakers in there. So in that deep dive area, right? That's where we go really deep, right? That's where you can say, hey, show me how you would handle this. How would I make a TV? Get rid of these black bars or get rid of half of them, or how does this feature work, or how do you manage subtitles? Whatever questions you have, we go into all the deep dive stuff there. Whereas usually when you're in the partner rooms, like when you're inside the main Chernobyl Theater or you're inside this other partnership theater, it's like what we like to refer to as all business, right? It's, hey, what you're about to see and hear is this. Enjoy the show, and you have this fantastic demo for 15 or 20 minutes, and you come out, right? But it's hard to really kind of know what everything is doing and what is the video processor adding here. And so that's the point of the deep dive session, is really kind of get to peel back the layers of the onion and understand, like, oh, okay, that's what contrast recovery is doing. Oh, that's what highlight recovery is doing. Oh, that's what this, shadow detail recovery is doing. All the different layers we're able to show that. So for any of you that are going to be at CEDIA or thinking about coming, come out and see us. You don't need an appointment. Just come crash the booth with us. You might have to kind of elbow some dealers out of the way, but we'd love to meet with the enthusiasts and the DIY folks at these shows. Otherwise, there'll be lots of videos and things like that. And then there's a ton of other rooms. We're still putting together the list, and there will be a lot of major display manufacturers, that will have projectors with an Envy. Yeah, Barco will have a lot of great things going on with Envys throughout the show floor as well, on video walls and so forth. So it's really going to be exciting.
Awesome. So if people want to get the madVR products, where can they go? Dealer, where do they need to go to get those products?
Joe, you want to take that?
Just it's super easy. Go to madVR.com, madVRenvy.com. They both carry the same place at the very top of the screen. It says where to buy. Click that, fill out a little little form. It's real simple, and we'll get you connected.
Sounds good. All right, guys. Well, yeah, and I'll be at CEDIA, so I'll be over there. I'll try to get some content for you guys. Don't know. I know the shows are always crazy. Trying to film in there, it's going to be wild, but it's going to be fun. It's looking forward to it. It's going to be my third year, and I'll actually get to check out the Trinov room this year because I missed it the last 2 years. So I'll actually be with those guys, some of those guys. So
Yeah.
I'll be looking forward to that and seeing that projector with the madVR. I'm sure that's going to look amazing.
It's going to be next level without a doubt.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, thank you guys for coming on. You guys have any closing comments?
No, the main thing I'd just like to say thank you for having us, and I'd like to again thank the enthusiasts and DIY community, for all of your outreach, and it means a lot to us how excited you are about this product. As you saw throughout here, we had several people, saying thank you, thank you, thank you, and really, we're the ones that should be thanking you. So thank you for hanging in there. I know a lot of people waited a long time and hoping that the madVR technology would reach a point where it was budget friendly for them, and so we're really excited to be able to do this. So thank you for being a big part of what it is that we do.
Joey?
Yeah, I have enjoyed this. This has been great. You guys had great questions tonight, and we really love the interaction and the questions and the enthusiasm. So, like I keep saying, we're movie nuts just like you guys are, and so we love what we do, and we're glad that you guys are enthusiastic about our product because we work hard with you in mind.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you guys for coming on, and we'll definitely schedule something, in the future, because I know there's tons of topics that we can talk about that we can do. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'm looking forward to seeing you guys again in person at CEDIA.
Definitely.
And are there any other shows after CEDIA throughout the year that maybe people can come to see you guys?
There are. I'm not sure if they're end user shows. A lot of my team would be like on the road doing a lot of different dealer events. But Joey, you may know of some of them.
I know Atlanta Home Theater they started a big show last year. I think it was in August. This year it's going to be in October. That's going to be really big, and we'll be there at that. And of course, David Caesar, who's our business development manager, that guy, you never know where he's going to show up, and he is the king of demos. So if you get a chance to go see him, and he's usually around at dealers doing events, so it's easy to find him roaming around, and you definitely can go visit those.
Yeah, it's a good point, Joey, because a lot of people said like, hey, what could this do? And I'd like to be able to see it. So if you can't make it out to Denver for CEDIA, that could be a good place to go. Like Audio Device Live just kind of passed. Unfortunately, we couldn't show this at M-Wave. I think that would have been a fantastic place, to do it. But there are these types of opportunities, and always feel free to reach out to us and say, hey, how do I get a demo? Where can I go to see this? Which shows you'll be at? We'll be happy to connect you.
Yeah, and here's another thing, real quick. We try to stay active on social media for you guys too, and a lot of times we'll post like where David's going to go and be, so you can catch us on Instagram is where we like to kind of hang out, and of course if you're on LinkedIn, we're very active on that too. So typically Dave's going out someplace, and we're going to give you a heads up where he'll be.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody that tuned in live for this madVR live stream. Learned a lot, some really cool stuff that's happening in the home theater, enthusiast world. So make sure you go and support these guys. Go check out their Envy Academy online videos, and yeah, well, make sure you like, share, subscribe. And for everybody that's watching this after the fact, leave your comments if you have any, and I'll be sure to share them with Rick and Joy. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next live stream or the next video.
Thanks, everyone.